Hello. Today we are dancing with Laressa Dickey. I'm super privileged to invite you back into the studio. You invited me into the studio when you were doing your masters in new performative practices here at SKH, Stockholm University of the Arts. And I was very inspired and intrigued by it. And then recently we've been practicing authentic movement together as well, which has been super rewarding. And I was just extremely, feel very humbled to be in your presence and in your practice. So I really look forward to spending some more time. But if people don't know you, how do you say hello?
I say hello. I'm a person. I'm a human. I write. I dance. I think. I make. And at SKH, I did the new performative practices, which for me was a way of kind of integrating the things that I do and think. And I'm very happy to be here. I want to share a practice that's actually similar or maybe even the same as what we did when I invited you in.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which I can say more about.
Yeah, well, let's go straight into what are we going to do?
Okay, so this will be a little bit of an experiment because of the proximity and distance of whoever might join. But just to describe, I have an obsession with craft paper, which is these brown, kind of 80-pound weight, 1 meter wide, and usually as much as I can afford long. And I used that paper. I have used it for many, many years in different projects, in different processes, sometimes wet, sometimes dry. But the practice I want to share today is a dry paper process with a length of the craft paper that's as long and tall as you are and as I am. So if you're at home, what I would say is if you have paper, it doesn't have to be a long paper, but it'd be nice if you have like a piece of thick paper that you can use. Cloth could work too, but one of the things that's interesting about the paper is that it actually is a bit responsive and also has a tensegrity or a turgidity about it that it doesn't flop in the way fabric does. So we're going to work with the paper in an open way, kind of as the first pass, I would say about 10 minutes or so is basically just getting to know it, warming up with it, letting it affect all your senses. And then what I would wish for the people at home or us as well is to have a way that you make a transition away from the paper and then have some open dancing that's influenced by just this dialogue or duet in a way with the paper and what that is.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. So find a big piece of paper about the size of you, if possible. Or a responsive material. I like that quality. Something that will leave a trace, maybe. Spend 10 minutes with it in whatever way you want. You can fold it, you can move it, you can lie on it, you can go under it.
You can be in it, exactly.
And then allow those 10 minutes with the paper to inform your dancing after.
And even, I would say, even use it to stimulate yourself.
Okay. So can the paper be involved in the dance still? Or is the paper...
I think so.
Yeah, great. Okay.
It's no rule. I mean, it's just nice to have a moment when you allow yourself to be on your own so that you feel the difference.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Great. And the dance after can be as long as you wish. I guess it can sort of peter out somehow.
Exactly. It can peter out. Peter.
Great. Cool. Then we will pause and come back in a minute. Okay. Thank you so much. Wow. Oh, I feel like I've been in a spa. A paper spa. Paper-themed spa. It's really, really wonderful. Maybe we can go through what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just to sort of reiterate, so we start with this sheet of paper that's unfolded or unrolled, that's flat, that's the size of you and the size of me, and then.
And it's quite wieldy. Like it's quite tricky to maneuver because it is so large, and it has this weight or lightness even, right? Because it floats away, and at the same time, is it aerodynamics that also almost sucks it to the ground at the beginning when it's so like spread out, it's so wide. Yeah.
Well, and also gravity. I mean, it's like
maybe it's gravity, not aerodynamics.
I mean, it has a resistance to. It has a resistance to, right? Like that's part of what's happening. It's the 80-pound weight. Like it's a weight that has a heft to it. I mean, I think that's what you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet it floats.
Yeah.
Right. It has that capacity to sort of hold and suspend and drift, especially when it's out large. At least that's what I found.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I just spent a lot of time trying to be under it, and it was escaping me a lot. So then that was directing my body in the direction of wait, yeah, really like a child following a kite or a balloon, like just desperate to stay with it, and at some point. Then it would hit a wall, and then I could really be in it, and then other things started to happen. But that chasing for me was really interesting and exciting at the beginning. Yeah,
I think there's a very interesting way that we have of building the relationship with it as a thing, as a material, and what it does or what it wants. And then also meeting at some point our own desire, or like it's a very interesting mirror in that way of what is it that I want in this moment. Yeah, and then when do I get tired of this thing and move on? Yeah, I like watching it for that. Like because I actually I don't know if what this says, but I don't even mess with it. Very much as a flat piece. I immediately start just like tearing into it. Yeah. I mean, and some of that is just the habit or like having been with it a long time. But I am really like, what are you? And I just have more aggression. Maybe that's what it is. But I think that's what I mean, or I'm thinking about stimulation and energy and like what is it that we need, and how do we need to be met by how can we help ourselves meet and be met by material?
And there's an entropy that you're speaking of, so like I think that's why I was reluctant to jump straight in and make it a ball, because I knew it will never be like this again. Exactly. So I really wanted to give myself the opportunity to to spend some time with that. And I was very reluctant. I remember from last time, I was very reluctant to use my hands this time to sort of hold and to wave or to flag and stuff. I really wanted that my conversation with it was a sort of whole body experience. And that was phenomenal, really, because because I had such lack of control of it in a way, which was really beautiful. But how do you experience entropy in it? Because I notice also yours is one piece at the end, whereas mine is, I think, 2 or 3.
I did take off one, and there is 2, and often, sometimes I am ripping it, or like shredding it.
Purposefully?
Well, or by accident, if I'm too rough, like, or I step on it at the wrong time and it rips. And so it really is kind of this evidence of the dance of the day, in a way. I think I just have this acceptance of this is recording something of, it's holding something of our relationship, or of an expression of energy or impatience or whatever. Let's call it the dancing practice. And then sometimes it gets shredded, and sometimes it holds a shape. I mean, today mine is sort of partially standing up or resisting the ground, so it's a little more sculptural, because at some point I was standing on it and then using my hands to like lift it up. And just enjoying this texture and movement up. And then when I stepped out of it, it stayed. It had an integrity. And so I like that I can look at it and say that's the moment of connection that helped create this collaboration, really, between me and this thing.
Yeah, and as you're speaking now, I recognize like there is a visual component, but I was noticing, like in relationship to that memory and recording, like at the beginning when it was less creased and less more flat, it felt louder. Like it felt more like a drum, because it has the vibrations in it are bigger. And then I was really aware at the end that memory wasn't there, in the sense of like it's not recorded, because it's lost. Like the material doesn't do it anymore. And I think I was thinking that was really interesting, like that my audible experience, which actually it was a lot for me today, about the sound of it, was that it didn't hold that, it didn't maintain that. Whereas it seems like you're working somehow also, like today at least, with the visual. Like you saw that memory of sort of swiping like a balloon man at a car garage, right? I was doing it, and then I saw it and kept doing it. And in a way that's sort of the some kind of inscribing, and then letting it be present in the material. Like I could have undone it. I could undo it, but I think I would like to say, I think this thing you just bring up about, like, today, it was really about an audio experience. What I notice for myself is this preference sometimes initially with the ears, like very much with the ears. And then at some point I get distracted by if my eyes are open or closed, what the light is, and then I start looking from the inside, and then wanting to sort of, basically I start making a small film for myself, or there are windows, I can look out, I can look in, and then I get bored of that and then move on to something else. But just that I notice over a long time that it's actually kind of, I'm cycling through my own preferences for warming up my senses. I mean, you called it filmic, maybe. I think I experienced something similar, but more architectural, like recognizing, I can be in here, there is an opening here, and the second part not the second part of the practice, but for me there was a part which came sort of after I was working with it as a big sheet, where I had it all around my head, and then it was like a tuning fork. But what was really interesting was I was able to be with the space, I felt, in a more sensorial way than if I didn't have the material, if I was to sort of work with the room. Like there was something about having my head immersed in it that I felt like it became a signaler, or a sense making mechanism for me to understand the walls, to understand the feeling of the room. I had a question. How do you experience this practice, maybe through the lens of dance versus sculpturing? Like what does it say about dance for you? because there is an element where one could argue, I think you do argue maybe that you are sort of sculpturing it just with maybe the tools of dance. So then what is how does it converse maybe between sculpturing and dancing?
I think I'm making a claim or asking, how is this a reciprocal practice? How is the reciprocity working if we're both having agency, both me and the paper? Like, can I work with it and practice with it to the point that I can let go of I'm doing this to this, but rather to recognize that it is also doing something to me. And that's where I feel like the dancing practice makes more sense for me, because then I am using my sensitivity, I'm using my imagination, I'm using my body. These are the tools of dance. And then allowing that to inform my choice, what I do next, when I pause, when I'm still. Yeah, I think it's a really great question, but I think this is the way I try to work with it, is about some mutuality.
But it definitely, it sort of, it causes me to sort of become aware of there is a quality in dance, which is this being affected, allowing something to affect me and my being. I'm trying to avoid saying body because I think we separate it too much between ourself and body. But they, even sort of at a ballet class, or something which more recognizable as dance, where you get these instructions or you get a sequence where you need to be in certain places at a certain time. And then the dancing part, at least for me, is about dealing with how that thing is affecting me and how I'm dealing with the instructions or the circumstances or the social situation,
Totally.
Those unwritten scores and interests and desires and pleasures and values that are sort of hanging in the dance studio or on the stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and also funny layers like, did I eat this morning or not?
Yeah.
Are my, is there a puddle on the floor? Did they forget to sweep? Like, I mean, these are mundane, but yeah, absolutely. I think the atmosphere or the affect, is absolutely. I mean, that's, I think, what I would like to posit with this practice also is that we are somehow this practice is doing something to the atmosphere in which I'm dancing or you're dancing, and it lasts a bit after, like it lingers. It actually makes me more aware when I'm not with it after of all the space around myself and all the possibility of nuance in what that is sensing or not.
Yeah, I can definitely still feel the paper on me, on my face, and I had this moment when I turned it into a ball and I almost massaged some of my internal organs, and I can still feel the sort of echo and residue of being with that material. And because it's not soft and not hard, it's sort of allowed for a type of responsiveness. And maybe that's a good word to go back to, because you use that as a way of choosing the material. But that it's responding and I'm responding.
Yeah.
But there's a tension, there's a tensality, you called it, between, in both of us. We're both adapting, and the material is adapting to to the situation, and it really provides that I can go a little bit further maybe than is comfortable, like I'm massaging my internal organs, and we don't normally do that. But at the same time, it's quite rewarding as well, because I'm going to a place which, maybe I wouldn't allow myself to go to, because it is pressing on me and it is giving me that sort of outside pressure. And I wonder if it speaks to the power of choreography. Like, I think so often there's a problematic when choreography is treated as like a commandment which is policed and enforced, and then the body has to fit the regime. Whereas here, the paper, if we consider it as a choreography, it's responding to the dancer as much as the dancer is responding to it. And it's that like empathetical relationship maybe, or ability to adjust and listen to one another that really provides a more nuanced and maybe a more accurate understanding of choreography.
Well, the words that are coming to me when you're speaking, I mean, are things like intermateriality, but also something that Suprapto Suryodarmo, this Indonesian dancer and teacher, would talk about. He used the word interdependence to suggest relationship, but also agency, I think. I mean, I don't know. This is my assumption about what it means. I mean, and I also I feel like I want to do a slight lineage here of like acknowledging that, you know, Anna Halprin has been working with paper in very recognizable and famous ways. And that there's a woman whose name I'm forgetting now, but who Adrian Heathfield has written a lot about. She's an I think Italian, maybe Brazilian artist. Anyway, I forgot her name. I will find it.
Yeah, you can.
Also working with paper. And then I wanted to also say the name of Sally Dean, who is a dancer, and her research is something called somatic costume. And she makes really elaborate sort of particular costumes. But maybe just to sort of point to the way somatic practice sometimes uses props or materials in order to give us enhanced interoception, like a different way of sensing ourselves. So the fact that, you know, when you're talking about this on the organs, like, of course, amazing, you know, and in a BMC class or in a other class, you might be using a soft ball for the same reason and do something very particular with the organs. But I love that it can also be quite an open way that you find yourself with wherever you are, and that material is still informing kind of like, I don't know, I sort of think about this way you just characterize choreography. For me, it feels like I get the image of like the outer form or the shell of a person versus this full animation of someone from the inside, and that the inside, all of what is inside of you, all of your organs, all of your tissues are expressive and deserve also, like, and maybe have a say in the kind of gesture or pirouette or whatever the fuck you're doing, you know, whatever you're doing. And maybe that's, I think, the beauty of maybe a choreography that is saying, all of you, known and unknown, gets to be here.
I mean, I had the question of like, why paper? And there's so many reasons there. One thing that I think of, I actually work with paper myself. I just realized, I don't think of myself as working with paper, but I work with paper. A4 sheets of paper, and one of the reasons I love working with it is because bureaucracy, instruction, commandment, legality, structure, and choreography are performed often through A4 sheets of paper or through paper. And it's so interesting that if we could pull a thread of like an idea that you've taken choreography and you've removed everything but the paper as the directive, you know, there's the thing that is informing us on how to deal with things. And there's something very poetic about that, but also very illustrative. Like, there's a reason we use paper, because it does have this flexibility. It has this ability to rip and carry traces and to transform and to sort of like there's a historical logic to why we produced paper and keep producing paper and keep using paper. I mean, especially in this digital age, Like it does do something. And we talk about like the physical book and holding the book and how it performs a different way of being with the knowledge or the material. But yeah, almost the idea of you've written a book by removing the words, you know.
Interesting. I mean, you've written a book by removing. I love it. Well, it's a little bit of a nod to being a writer.
Yeah, of course.
And also always trying to find ways to integrate that or to understand even to myself of like, how am I always both of these things? And the writer is also a dancer, is also a writer. And so how is that also inscribing what I'm doing always? So the words, I don't know. I love that, what you said about the...
But there's something about that you sort of mentioned, or it seemed to hang in the air at least a little bit, like, and it comes up a little bit for me that you are both the writer and the dancer. And often I think as dancers, that is a difficulty. Like as choreographing a solo and being your own motivator and instructor and outside eye and all those things is like it's a huge challenge. We have to perform over and over again, be it because of the way institutions are built or how dance industry functions. But we're often in the studio trying to find ways of, I feel like motivation is the wrong word, but as ways to be that author and at the same time be responsive to the authorship without flipping it and becoming the writer only. Because I feel like I do that often, like, because I'm trying to be responsive to a choreography that I've set up in motion in the studio, I'll be in it and I'll turn into the writer. I'll stop dancing and I'll start choreographing. I'll start rewriting the parameters to the point that sometimes I don't even dance anymore. Okay, great. We're in another space.
A different space.
The pleasures of being a freelance, sort of mixing it up and finding ways of working together and stuff. But was there anything else that sort of came to mind that before we sort of...
No, I think I just appreciate the chance to share the practice and then hear what it does for people, what it offers. It's very useful for me to learn and to open up maybe and see how it fits in both in the field of choreography, in the field of dance, and maybe in the history of dance.
Yeah, and I wonder, in writing, I mean, sadly I'm not really from that world, but I'd be curious. I mean, I guess it is part of your practice in writing. Is it so direct or is it sort of more tangential?
I think I would say it's more tangential or I mean, I use this craft paper for other things and write on it, and part of the reason for that is to subvert the A4 frame. Only because I had a poetry teacher once who asked us to interrogate what we were writing on, the size of the paper we were writing on was determining what we wrote and how long it was and the shape of it. And for me, this has really blown my mind for many years of, oh wow, we have these notebooks, we have these very specific things. It was the first time ever really thinking about how that bureaucracy is affecting also one's thinking, one's output, one's expression. So, it's indirectly related, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I use the A4 to sort of point it out, to make it explicit. Since I don't use it in a conventional way. But it's a nice transition. Like, I feel like there are so many more things to talk about and spend time with. I hope that people have manage to have a go at this and maybe put their head inside of some paper or whatever.
Yeah, or even just thinking about, it can be smaller sheets of paper, but like playing with like obscuring parts of themselves, or like playing with senses, or up close on an ear. Like there are lots of ways to adapt, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced this a few times, like where like people have used veils or things, you know, materials to sort of allow one not to focus directly on the body, and it does that, but it also, I think it has a little bit more of a conversational quality because it retains things. It has that recording materiality to it, which is super. Yeah, it's super strong and super evident. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Yeah. And if people want to get in touch with your work, where do you direct them?
I have a website, which is my name, first name, last name.com, which needs to be updated, and an Instagram account, which is a funny one. Maybe we can put it on the notes.
Yeah, we'll put them underneath.
Yeah, that would be great. But thank you for your time. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. And please reach out if you want some sort of more insight and get involved more, or to come join us doing authentic movement.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See
Happy
you
New
soon.
Year.